Gary Patterson is going into the TCU Hall of Fame. TCU should use this opportunity to get him back involved with the university.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We are brought to you today by Monarch Money. Make bill paying, all these things. It's a wealth management app. Make it all easier with Monarch Money. Download the app today. We're going to talk about TCU Baseball taking on Arizona this weekend in a big weekend series. Schools tampering with TCU. We'll follow up on yesterday's episode where we talked about Sonny Dykes calling out schools for throwing money at his players that are currently on the roster there at TCU. But we start today, not so much breaking news, but this came down recently. Gary Patterson is going to be part of this year's TCU Hall of Fame class. They will be enshrined in the fall of 2025. As far as I can tell, no official date yet, but it's happening this fall. That class, Gary Patterson, Julian Braun from the golf team, Matt Carpenter, baseball, Whitney Gibson-Bright from track and field, Preston Morrison, baseball, Glenn Norris, track and field, Charles Silman, track and field, Jason Verrett, corner, who played under Gary Patterson, and Richard Sebesma, swim and dive team. They will all be joining the TCU Hall of Fame. Congrats to all of them. Gary Patterson, well-deserved. I mean, an absolute no-brainer. Winningest coach in TCU football history, all the accolades. We understand who he is. This is the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, to get the ball rolling on getting him back involved with TCU athletics. Now, in my mind, the perfect role for Gary would be something in the scouting department in football, because he wouldn't have to deal with NIL and the portal and all these things. It would just be scouting players, which is something he excelled at during his time as a head coach in his coaching career. That's not likely. It's not going to happen because, of course, Sonny Dykes is the guy that followed him, and that just doesn't really make sense. And it's Sonny's staff ultimately. So I don't see that being plausible or really possible. But I said this before. Gary was on with Matt Mosley last year, and I think the perfect job for him would be something to do with fundraising. Get him involved with these boosters again. These boosters that have a lot of loyalty to him as a person. Some of them weren't happy with how everything ended, weren't happy with how he was treated, how he was shown the door. Mike Buddy, new athletic director. This is a great opportunity for him to say, okay, let's turn the page. Let's make this right. And let me make something clear. It was time to move on. And somebody's going to hop in the YouTube comments and say, no, it wasn't. It was time. It was time to move on. Okay. But the way it happened wasn't ideal. I think both parties take some responsibility in that. But it ending mid-season and blowing up like it did was not what everybody wanted. Gary deserves the opportunity to get his recognition, to get his time on the spotlight for everything he did. And he hasn't really had that chance. He's going to get some of that with this Hall of Fame induction. But get him back involved with the football program again. And he can still do all the charity work that he's passionate about in Fort Worth. He can be involved in the community. He can play golf. He can have time with his family and enjoy the retirement life, but also help drum up revenue and donations for TCU athletics to get the best talent possible in the building and help them build for the future, which is I know something that he wants to do. But going back to the Mosley interview, he was on with Mosley last fall. And this was after he had left his job at Baylor. And look, I get it. I know we all have feelings about that. I don't love that he took the job at Texas. I don't love that he had the brief job with Baylor. He wasn't even there when the season started, but he joined that staff with Dave Aranda, and he was technically on staff at our biggest rival for a short period of time as a consultant. Now, he decides before the season started, I think I've done everything I can do here. I can move on. But time heals all wounds, okay? In a couple of years, in 5 years, in 10 years, we're not going to remember Gary Patterson at Texas. We're not going to remember Gary Patterson at Baylor. People don't remember Emmitt Smith with the Arizona Cardinals. It's a footnote in his career. People talk about it, but they don't remember him there. People don't remember Joe Montana with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, it's part of the story. It's unfortunate that he didn't end his career in San Francisco, but when they think of those players, they remember them at their best at the places that they had the most success. People will associate Gary Patterson with TCU forever. People will associate TCU football with Gary Patterson for a long time. So it happened. Okay. Let's reunite. Let's get him back in the fold. TCU's done a really good job of retaining players with their NIL funds. We're moving into a revenue sharing model where things are going to be different. But you always need people who can raise money. You need people who are likable, who have connections to TCU. Let him do this job. Let him be involved again with TCU athletics. To me, it's the perfect fit. And he told Mosley, he was like, look, he didn't close the door on coaching, but Matt specifically asked him about TCU. And he was like, hey, do you have any interest in going back? Do you think you'll be there at some point? Have you heard anything? And Gary gave kind of a vague answer, but his sentiment in the quote exactly was, I'm going to end up there one day. He basically said, that's home. Fort Worth is home. That's home to us. I'll always be connected there. Well, you've had some changes now in the administration. You've got some transition. There's been some time. Sonny has put his own imprint on this program now. Everybody's had some time to get used to this new normal and digest it and live in a new world where he's not the coach of TCU football anymore. So let's just get it done. Let's bring him back. And I think it would be great for just the vibes. It would be great for PR. And this is where he needs to be. He wasn't happy with me in that last season. And I understand why. He blocked me on social media. I know a lot of you, he might have done similar things, and I totally get it. If people were calling for my job, I wouldn't want to see what they have to say either. Okay? I understand all that. But the way it ended doesn't take away everything that he did at TCU. The fact that he coached at Texas and Baylor, even though I don't love it, and it kind of makes my skin crawl hearing it, it doesn't take away everything that he built and everything that he did here at TCU. And people that have invested in this institution and that are just friends of his from being around him for so long would be thrilled. I mean, they're going to interact with him anyway, but they would be thrilled to have that time with him in a setting where, hey, let's do what's best for this university. Let's do what's best for this athletic program. Let's lock arms and start building this thing like we did 2 decades ago when we had to do it from the ground up. We got to the place we wanted to. We are in major college football now. So let's keep it going. Let's be a name brand in a new look league that has now given everyone the opportunity to step up and be the standard bearer from here on out. That's a really good Hall of Fame class too. Jason Verrett's one of my favorite players of all time. Just a lockdown corner. I wish he could have stuck around for that 2014 season. I think that would have made a huge difference. And the secondary was really good, but just having his ability to cover half the field was such an advantage for such a long time. I wish he could have been there. Matt Carpenter, Gary Patterson. It's a great Hall of Fame class. It's going to be an awesome night when they celebrate those guys and women as well in the fall of 2025. And it just makes sense now that there's been some time, things have changed. Bring him back. Get him back involved in what he built so well. It was time to move on. And now it's time to say, okay, water under the bridge. Let's work together again. Don't let him go. Don't let this linger, and don't let him go take a job coaching at the G5 level or something like that. Just lock it in right now. And if he takes, if it happened that he got back with TCU and then he decided he wanted to go do that, okay. But I don't think, this is me speculating, I don't think Gary really wants to take on another program again. I don't feel like that's what he wants to do. I believe part of the reason he left Baylor was because he was like, I don't want to work these long hours anymore. I feel like he truly does miss football. And I'm sure when the summer and the fall rolls around, he's like, man, I wish I was somewhere talking ball with people, breaking down tape, talking strategies, doing something that was related with football. But I don't think he wants to be involved in this new world of college sports where you're re-recruiting your roster every year and you're constantly looking over your shoulder about, well, what is this other school offering my players? How are they communicating with my players? He doesn't want to be involved with that. But essentially a part-time gig where he's hanging out with his friends and trying to do what's best for TCU athletics and being back in a place where he did so much good and he can see the results of everything that happened over the past 2 decades. Yes, I think that would be intriguing to him. So Mike Buddy, people at TCU, perfect time to make this happen. Take this opportunity where we're celebrating him to pitch the idea of, hey, let's work together again. Let's do what's best for TCU football and TCU athletics as a whole. When we come back, Sonny Dykes says schools are tampering with his players. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Did you know your Amazon Fire TV can also be an Xbox? If you're a gamer or you're just interested in downloading NCAA 25 and playing that game, perfect opportunity for you to get involved. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty as easily as you stream your favorite shows. What if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? If you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug it in. If you currently stream content, it's much smoother with a 4K ready streaming stick that's available right now. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV-LockedOn to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Again, that's Amazon.com/FireTV-LockedOn. Go there today and give it a try. So yesterday I discussed the fact that in an interview with 365 Sports, Sonny Dykes said that teams are tampering with his players. And this is happening all across the country. It's not just a problem for TCU, and I'm not naive. I feel like TCU is probably also sending some feelers out there because that's just how this works. But Sonny said that the culture that they have instilled at TCU over the past few years is winning out in a lot of these battles. Josh Hoover, we know it's been reported. We know that Tennessee called at least his representatives and said, "Hey, we got an opportunity here. Would you be interested?" And they quickly said, "No, thank you. We're good. Josh is getting compensated. He likes it here. He wants to be here." And honestly, that makes sense. He's the biggest priority for TCU football right now. They have built this team around him. But I think what it highlights is something that Sonny's really good at, which is building a culture and being a player's coach. And you can view that positively or negatively. I've told you this before. All of these things about coaches and their personalities, it really comes down to whether you win or lose. In Sonny's first year, when TCU was winning all those games, everybody was like, "Oh man, he's just such a breath of fresh air." They were under a coach who was so tough on them. And Sonny comes in, he's a lot more relaxed, and he's here to like build these guys up, and he just kind of lets them do their thing as long as they show up on Saturdays and play at a high level. And that was such a good thing for that team. And we just praised him for that. But then when he started losing, all of a sudden it's like, that 5-7 season, there were a lot of questions about, well, he's just not tough enough. He doesn't hold the players accountable, right? And it was the same thing with Gary Patterson, just a different story. For years, we talked about and praised him for his discipline and how tough his teams were and how his toughness and that chip on his shoulder and all those things that he brought to the table, the team took that on, and that's why they had success. When they started not having success, suddenly it was like, well, he's too tough. He doesn't understand the way college football is changing. He doesn't understand how to relate to these kids currently. It all just comes down to whether you win or lose. There's different ways to do it. But I think Sonny's strength, and I'm a firm believer in, you have to be yourself. You can make some changes, but you can't totally change who you are. So if you're more of a laid-back coach, you can be successful, but you have to find players that will take initiative, hold themselves accountable. You have to have a good, strong coaching staff around you. And you have to have a culture that is healthy and that is thriving. And I believe Sonny's done a good job of that over the past year plus. Jacob Langford on YouTube chimed in with this note. He says Sonny was not happy when James Brockermeyer transferred. He thought Miami tampered before the window, and he let James and his brother know about that, and he should have. Sounds like it was tampering. So, yeah, I mean, they have lost a few of those guys. It hasn't been overwhelming, but in the Brockermeyer case, Miami offered big money, and he left. One thing that I've learned through the last couple of years, and really the last few months, from just some parents of players that are on the O-line and D-line, the market for competent guys in the trenches is crazy. If you're an offensive or defensive lineman with experience that has played at a decent or high level in college football, you can make a lot of money. And unfortunately, James Brockermeyer saw an opportunity to make some more money, and he jumped at it. But I've also heard that some other guys on the offensive line got some opportunities, and some edge rushers and some D linemen got some opportunities, and they said, you know what? We want to be here, right? So it speaks to the culture that they've built and the fact that I think this team really likes each other and found a way to rally around each other. When they were 3-3 last year and heading into that bye week, I thought they were dead in the water. I felt like best case scenario was you find a way to get to 6 wins, you make a bowl game, and you hope that's enough to kind of salvage momentum and start to build on it next year. But to their credit, they stopped turning the ball over. They stopped making so many mistakes. And suddenly, they won some games. And yes, the schedule got more manageable. But the way they were playing football the first half of the season, they lost to UCF. They lost to Houston. They improved because if they didn't improve, they would have lost more games. They would have dropped a game to Arizona or Oklahoma State or Cincinnati. But they didn't because they got better and they figured it out. Well, now you have built this team in a way where you're ready to compete right now, and this is supposed to be the year. So there's some pressure with that, but I think there should also be some optimism and some excitement. Returning quarterback, a lot of returning players on defense. You're reshuffling your skill players, but you're hoping that with a possibly improved offensive line and a more experienced QB, it'll even out. And you have a tougher schedule, but I think you also have a really good chance to go get a Big 12 championship. So this is the season to do it, and we'll see if they can. But I commend Sonny and this staff on building a culture where the players believe in what they're doing. And they said, you know what? Even if I have opportunities elsewhere, I want to stick with this crew and see what we can do because this is a special group. When we come back, TCU Baseball, big series against Arizona this weekend. Last night I was talking with my wife about bills. It's the first of the month. You're like, okay, do we have enough in our account to get through? Do we need to move some money around? Download the Monarch Money app today because they'll make that whole process easy for you. It's an all-in-one wealth management app. Monarch Money. It's a great place for you and your spouse or your partner to share all your financial information. It makes you your personal CFO. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, so you can just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. You'll realize just how much you're spending and maybe where you need to cut back a little bit. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's a great deal. That's half off. 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com when you use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Give it a try. Monarch Money. Download the app or go to monarchmoney.com today. TCU Baseball, 3 games, Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Arizona. First, a scheduling note. Not really on the West Coast, but they're in the Mountain Time region, so late starts on Friday and Saturday, 8 p.m. first pitch. Tommy Lepore has been absolutely outstanding this year, and I expect him to go out there and throw the ball really well on Friday night. Saturday and Sunday TBD. I think Caben Park will get the start on Saturday, and I've been a proponent. I think you need to let Trevor Baumler just get another opportunity on Sunday. He started last week, and I feel like there's a benefit in just everybody having a defined role. So let him throughout the rest of the season kind of play this out and see if he can get to a place where he's more consistent. Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, not totally sure about his status. Hope he's available. He ran headfirst into a chain link fence in that Sunday game against Baylor. Thankfully, there was apparently an oral surgeon in the stands who just ran down there, got him fixed up. But I know that was a rough scene. And so we'll see. I would imagine if he is available, probably DH in this weekend, which means Isaac Cadena will be out there in the outfield, but give Sawyer a chance to just hit the ball and not have to deal with running out there in the outfield for a weekend. Arizona's a good team. And I'm skeptical about how much TCU can gain ground on West Virginia just because the Ears basically have a 4-game lead on them now. But if you can somehow pull out a sweep, which I think would be really difficult, then that's going to go a long way. West Virginia's schedule does get a little tougher their last 2 weekends of the season against Kansas and Kansas State. But the main thing is try to win a series. Because aside from the Big 12 championship, the other aspect of this that's on the line right now is hosting a regional. You're in the discussion. And if you can take a series on the road against Arizona and then take care of business against Cincinnati and Utah, then I feel like you've got a really good case to host. And as long as you don't just completely fall on your face in the Big 12 tournament, you should be there. Now, one thing to know about the Big 12 tournament, it is single elimination this year, which I think is very silly because baseball in small sample sizes, you should at least have 2 opportunities. But it's 12-team single elimination. So I guess you could look at it like, hey, if you get on a little bit of a roll, you can win the whole thing. Or one bad pitching performance and suddenly you're on the outside looking in. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. We'll talk more about this Also, the TCU offensive line. We'll get into that Friday as well. It's Locked on Horned Frogs. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also free and available on your favorite podcast platform.